Imagine walking into a palace, a temple, or even a simple fortress, thinking you're safe. But with a single step, boom, you trigger something so deadly that no one has ever escaped alive. These aren't just traps, they are nightmares crafted by history's deadliest minds. And once you see them, you'll never look at ancient architecture the same way again. Stay till the end, because the number one trap on this list was so horrifying, it wiped out an entire invading army in a single night. Let's begin. Number 10. The Mayan Temple of Death, the Invisible Pitfall. Deep in the heart of the Mayan jungles, there exists a temple where intruders never returned. At first glance, it looks like a normal passageway, but it holds a horrifying secret. The floor was designed to collapse under weight. Step too far, and you'd plunge into a spike-filled pit below. But these weren't ordinary spikes. They were coated with poison made from the deadliest jungle plants. Even if you somehow survived the fall, the poison would shut down your organs in minutes. But here's the twist. The spikes weren't fixed. The Mayans had designed them to move, meaning even if you missed the spikes, the ground beneath would shift, forcing you onto the deadly blades. No one ever made it out. And some say that even today, the temple still holds the skeletons of those who dared to enter. But if you thought falling into poison spikes was terrifying, wait until you hear about the Roman trap that cooked intruders alive. Number 9. The Roman fire cage, the human oven. The Romans were masters of war, but they were also masters of terror. And when it came to protecting their treasure vaults, they used a trap so sadistic, it turned people into human torches. It was called the fire cage. The concept? Simple. A metal cage with a false floor. When an intruder stepped in, the entrance sealed shut behind them. Then, boom. Tubes connected to the floor released oil, and within seconds, the whole chamber exploded into flames. There was no escape. The bars were too hot to touch, and the ceiling was slowly closing in, forcing victims closer to the fire. And the worst part? The Romans didn't even have to be there. A hidden mechanism would trigger the trap as soon as someone stepped inside. And this wasn't just for one person. They designed it to burn multiple intruders alive at the same time. If the heat didn't kill you, the smoke would. But if you think being burned alive is horrifying, imagine a trap that could squeeze the life out of you while you were still fully conscious. Number 8. The Greek bone crusher, the collapsing chamber. The ancient Greeks were known for their intellect and engineering, but what most people don't realize is that they also built some of the most terrifying traps in history. One of their worst? The bone crusher. This was a room that looked completely normal, a safe place where an intruder might hide. But the second they stepped inside, the doors locked. Then, the walls began to move. Slowly, inch by inch, the walls closed in, forcing the victim into a tighter and tighter space. At first, it just seemed like a prison. But as the seconds passed, the truth became clear. There was no escape. As the walls kept closing in, bones started to crack, limbs twisted, and breathing became impossible. The last thing the victim would hear? The sound of their own ribcage snapping under the pressure. But if you think this is bad, the next trap is even worse. Because it didn't just kill intruders, it made sure their bodies were never found. Number 7. The Persian sand trap, the suffocation chamber. The ancient Persians were known for their beautiful palaces, but hidden inside these structures were chambers of death. One of the most horrifying was the sand trap. At first, it looked like just another empty room, but the moment an intruder entered, the floor would shift, opening secret vents. Within seconds, a torrent of fine, dry sand would start pouring from the ceiling. At first, it seemed harmless. Just sand, right? Wrong. Within minutes, the sand would bury everything inside, filling up the room faster than anyone could dig. The more they moved, the deeper they sank. The victim would be alive, trapped in total darkness, slowly suffocating under tons of sand. Their screams were silenced, their bodies lost forever beneath the palace floor. To this day, archaeologists have uncovered Persian ruins with hidden sand chambers, completely untouched for thousands of years. But if you think being buried alive is terrifying, imagine a trap that hunts you down even after you think you've escaped. Number 6. The Egyptian curse of the rolling stones. The ancient Egyptians were the masters of booby-trapped tombs. But one of their deadliest traps didn't just kill intruders, it hunted them. Hidden inside the tombs of the pharaohs, this trap looked innocent enough, just a narrow hallway. But the second an unwelcome guest walked through it, a hidden trigger was set off. And that's when the walls came alive. A massive stone boulder, weighing over 1,000 pounds, would drop from the ceiling and start rolling down the hallway. It was designed so perfectly that the intruder had nowhere to escape. Too slow? You're crushed to death. Try to outrun it? The passage suddenly narrows, slowing you down just enough for the stone to catch you. Even worse? Some tunnels had multiple rolling stones, so even if you dodged the first one, another was waiting right behind it. Ancient writings inside these tombs warned about the deadly boulders, but those who ignored them, they were never seen again. And yet, as terrifying as giant rolling boulders are, they don't compare to the most insane ancient trap ever created. A trap so lethal, it wiped out an entire army overnight. Number 5. The Viking blood eagle trap, a fate worse than death. You might think the Vikings were only known for their brutality in battle, but they were also master strategists, and when it came to protecting their most sacred halls, they built one of the most terrifying traps in history. This wasn't just a trap, it was a nightmare. Imagine walking into a grand Viking longhouse, believing you had finally found shelter. But the moment you stepped inside, you triggered the doom of your own flesh. The doors slammed shut, and the floor beneath you suddenly gave way, dropping you into a deep pit. But this was no ordinary fall. Hanging from the walls of the pit were razor-sharp iron hooks, designed to rip into flesh. And the worst part? The Vikings didn't kill you immediately. They would pull the intruder out and perform the blood eagle ritual, a horrifying execution method where the victim's ribs were sliced open and their lungs pulled out to resemble wings. This wasn't just punishment, it was a warning. Those who saw the aftermath never dared to invade Viking lands again. But if you think this level of cruelty is disturbing, wait until you hear about the trap that turned an entire fortress into a death maze. Number 4. The Chinese Labyrinth of Doom, the fortress with no exit. In ancient China, some fortresses weren't just built to keep enemies out. They were designed to trap them inside forever. The Labyrinth of Doom was a deadly architectural marvel. If an enemy somehow breached the outer walls, they would be trapped inside an endless maze, where every turn could be their last. This was no ordinary maze. It was filled with hidden spike pits, falling blade traps, and doors that sealed shut the moment you passed through them. Warlords designed these fortresses so that invaders would wander for hours, slowly losing their minds while hidden guards picked them off one by one. The worst part? There was no way out. Even if you made it past the traps, secret passageways would lead you back to the start. Many intruders died of starvation before they could even find an exit. Their skeletons were left behind to warn others. But if you think a never-ending maze of death is terrifying, wait until you see the trap that drowned entire armies in an instant. Number 3. The Indian elephant stampede trap, the crushing doom. In ancient India, fortresses were protected by something far more terrifying than just walls or weapons. They had a living, breathing, unstoppable trap. Imagine invading a royal palace and suddenly hearing the deafening sound of thundering footsteps. Before you could even react, massive iron gates would slam shut behind you. And then, a hidden door at the far end would open, unleashing a stampede of war elephants. These beasts were specifically trained to crush intruders. Some even had razor-sharp metal blades attached to their tusks to ensure maximum destruction. No soldier, no matter how skilled, could survive the stampede. The only escape? There was none. Those who tried to climb the walls were met with boiling oil poured from above. And just when they thought the nightmare was over, the floor beneath them would collapse into a pit full of spikes. But as terrifying as it sounds, the next trap was so horrifying that it made even seasoned warriors break down in fear. Number 2. The Japanese Samurai Guillotine Hall, the blade that never misses. The ancient samurai weren't just legendary warriors, they were also brilliant trap makers. Their most terrifying creation? A hallway where every single step could be your last. It was called the Guillotine Hall, and it was designed to execute intruders in the most efficient way possible. At first, the hallway looked completely normal, a straight wooden path leading to the treasure room. But the second an uninvited guest stepped in, whoosh! A razor-sharp blade, suspended from the ceiling, would come swinging down at lightning speed. The worst part? The blades were so sharp and precise that they could slice through bone in a single strike. Even if someone dodged the first blade, the hallway had hidden pressure plates, and each step would activate another guillotine. The deeper the intruder went, the more impossible it became to escape. No one ever made it to the treasure room. And yet, this still isn't the deadliest trap of all. Because the number one trap on this list was so devastating, it wiped out an entire army in one night. Number 1. The Boiling River Trap. The trap that erased an army. The most horrifying ancient trap ever built wasn't just designed to kill a few intruders, it was meant to annihilate an entire army. This deadly invention was used in ancient Assyria, where the kingdom's engineers turned nature itself into a weapon. How? By boiling a river alive. The trap was set at a narrow canyon, the only way for an invading army to march toward the city. At first, everything seemed normal, until the water started bubbling. Before the soldiers could even react, the entire river exploded into a scalding inferno. Hidden underground tunnels had allowed the Assyrians to pump burning oil directly into the water. The moment the enemy stepped into the river, boom! The oil ignited, and the entire waterway turned into liquid fire. Within minutes, hundreds of soldiers were burned alive, trapped in the flames. The survivors tried to flee, but hidden archers picked them off one by one. By sunrise, the entire invading force had been wiped out, and to this day, ruins of these flame tunnels have been discovered, proving that this wasn't just a legend, it was a real, horrifying death trap. Which of these terrifying traps shocked you the most? Would you survive any of them if you were caught inside? Comment below and let me know. And if you love jaw-dropping history, hit subscribe, because I've got even more mind-blowing stories coming soon. And remember, watch your step. You never know what traps still lie hidden beneath the earth.